Good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss the overview of the course Basic Principles of Energy Management and Energy Audit. This course is very useful for all diploma and engineering students as well as for those who are appearing for certain certification examinations such as Energy Auditor by Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So, this course is divided into 12 weeks. Different weeks will cover different topics which are essential for energy management and energy audit. During the first week, we will discuss about introduction to various types of energy such as primary and secondary energy. Primary energy are those which are directly used by the user such as wind energy, solar energy and thermal energy. Secondary energy are those which are used from one form to other. For example, we convert the solar energy into electricity or wind energy into electricity or hydro into electricity. So, these are called secondary energy sources. Commercial and non-commercial energy sources are those which are used to produce commercial electricity such as we use coal to produce electricity, we use wind to produce electricity and so on. Whereas non-commercial energy sources are those which are used directly by the user such as the coal or the biogas or the biomass. Next, we also will discuss about renewable and non-renewable energy sources. Renewable energy sources are those which are non-exhaustible in nature. For example, solar energy, wind energy and hydro energy, whereas non-conventional energy sources are those which are exhaustible like coal, nuclear, fossil fuel and natural gas. Next, we will discuss about energy scenario in different sectors. So, here different sectors mean energy usage in hydro, energy usage by nuclear, energy usage by renewable sources, by coal or oil and natural gas. So, these are different sectors of energy usage. Next week we will discuss about energy consumption in various areas. So, various areas include residential and commercial areas, industrial areas, transportation sector, agriculture sector and other areas. So, these are different important areas where energy is utilized. We will also discuss about energy security and its conservation. Energy security means how to not depend upon other countries for energy usage, how to use indigenous sources of energy. So, we will discuss about energy conservation, how to use diversification in energy, how to use innovation so that we can reduce the energy consumption, how to use more efficient equipments and reduce the demand and manage the energy properly. In the next class, we will discuss about energy and its various forms such as energy is available as a coal or oil or natural gas or also as a nuclear and other forms energy are available. Next, we will discuss about basics of electricity and thermal energy. So, when you talk about electricity, we will discuss about how electricity is produced, how the current flows and the other mechanisms of how the electricity is measured and so on. So, similarly, when we talk about thermal energy, we will discuss about different modes of thermal energy utilization, for example, conduction, convection and radiation. We will also talk about fundamentals of units of energy such as we can express the thermal energy in terms of joules, whereas we express electrical energy in terms of watts. So, how to convert from one unit to other units of electricity and energy are also involved such as we measure the pressure, we measure the temperature and so on. So, all these units are utilized for the calculation of different energy consumption and energy demand. Next week we will discuss about BEE schemes under Energy Conservation Act. So, this is a very important act of that is called Energy Conservation Act 2003. So, in this act we have different building codes such as ECBC, that is called Energy Conservation Building Codes. We have standards for star rating, like you see that there are different equipments which are given 3 or star or 4 star or 5 star. So, how to decide the star rating, we will discuss about that. We will also discuss about demand side management and we will also discuss about the different incentives such as PAT, performance based incentives which are given by this act of electricity. This electricity act also talks about different terms such as generation, trading, supply and under the act of electricity we have different policies of the government of India such as open access policy and consumer rights. So, all those things will be discussed under the Electricity Act 2003. During the next week, we will discuss about Action plan on climate change. Climate change is very important topic. We all have experienced lot of effect of climate change, like this year we have lot of floods in the whole country. So, these are the result of climate change. So, in this particular week we will talk about what are the goals of action plans that government makes of climate change. The typical goal is achieving sustainable growth, and for that purpose we apply different kinds of technologies, we adopt different kinds of techniques for mitigation of climate change, we adopt different innovative practices, and we also will discuss about how to avoid damage to the vulnerable population. For example, there is a sea level rising because of climate change. So, what will be possible impact and how to avoid it. Next, we will also discuss about energy policy. Under this policy, we have policy for promotion of greener energy, policy to encourage adoption of more efficient technologies, policy also talks about environmental sustainability. So, this policy will be discussed in this particular week. So, next week we will talk about objectives of energy management and energy audit. So, this is a particular important topic of this course, where we will talk about why it is important to have energy management and energy audit. We will identify various types of priorities in saving energy. We will talk about energy conservation measures, we will talk about how to improve environmental impact of energy, promote awareness and utilize the energy in an optimal way. So, energy audit and energy conservation are very important for this purpose. So, we will talk about different types of energy audit. For example, there is called preliminary energy audit, there is another type of energy audit that is called targeted energy audit and detailed energy audit. Under this we have different steps, which starts with the verification of energy consumption in different areas, monitoring the energy uses of different equipments, analysis of energy usage, technical report generation based on the data, recommendation based on the available data, and so on. All these things will be discussed under this topic. Next, we will talk about energy performance and benchmarking. So, this energy performance includes evaluation, monitoring, measurement, analysis and optimization of energy usage, whereas benchmarking means how to set targets, how to make comparisons of different options available, how to analyze different options and make some kind of recommendation based on available options. Next week we will talk about optimization of energy and substitution of energy. So, when you talk about optimization of energy, we may need to convert from one form to other, or sometimes we may prefer one form of energy over the other depending upon the efficiency of that particular form. So, we will talk about utilization of energy from waste also. So, in a particular industry, for example, we have cogeneration plants. So, in this plant we use the energy of the waste heat to produce electricity. So, this kind of practices are very helpful to optimize the energy. So, similarly, we will talk about fuel substitution using the hybrid systems like biogas, and we will also talk about using the waste produced to produce energy, so that we can optimize the energy usage. Next, we will talk about instruments that are involved in energy auditing. There are various types of instruments to measure different types of energy. For example, we can use wattmeter to measure the electricity, we can use pyranometer to measure the solar irradiation, and we can use thermal imager to measure the heat loss. And in the next lecture, we will talk about introduction to energy monitoring and targeting, where we will discuss how to record the energy losses, how to analyze the data, how to compare the data and generate reports. There are certain softwares also which are utilized for this purpose. So, we will talk about all those different topics. During the next week, we will discuss about analysis of information and data with management information system, that is MIS. So, when we talk about MIS, it is a kind of a software which will generate quantitative review and qualitative review. Next, we will talk about energy policy and planning. So, when we talk about planning, it involves different stages such as developing energy policy, setting objectives and targets, preparing detailed action plan and allocating different management resources for the purpose of achieving the targets. So, it also involves management techniques to adopt and implement the particular policy. We will also talk about evaluation of energy performance. In this, we will discuss how to track and monitor energy consumption, how to use MIS systems, how to review action plans. Once a particular policy is adopted, we have to have regular review to make corrective measures. In the next week, we will talk about tools for effective implementation. For example, how to use effective communication, how to use general awareness in a particular institute or industry, what is the importance of training and building morale and encouragement, which may be in the form of incentives for proper uses of energy. Budget is a very important part of energy auditing. So, once we analyze the energy data, we will understand how much energy consumption is there in the particular institution, and accordingly we will make different plans. So, there are different kinds of budgetary data analysis, which is financial analysis, risk and sensitivity analysis, energy and environmental issues which are involved, and impact of global warming and climate change. So, this also will be discussed. So, there are different methods of calculation of financial analysis, such as calculation of payback period, net present value, cash flow, return on investment, that is called ROI, and IRR, that is internal rate of return. So, all these things will be taught and discussed under this particular topic. Next, we will talk about energy and environmental issues. So, we have already discussed about how environmental issues are very important, and these issues may be in the form of global warming, in the form of climate change, and how to combat these issues, that will be discussed. So, global warming and climate change are two different major important parameters which are being talked about. So, global warming is a result of improper energy consumption, and climate change involves different kinds of climatic disasters like floods and so on. In the next week, we will talk about international agreements on and panels on climate change. There are various kinds of international agreements and protocols, such as Rio Protocol, Kyoto Protocol, and Paris Agreement. So, these protocols and their provisions will be discussed during this week. The very important thing is the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs of United Nations. There are different SDGs, and the SDG number 7 and 13 specifically talk about energy usage and energy management. And we will also talk about renewable energy sources, so which are wind, solar, hydro, biomass, and so on. All these sources, their principles of how energy is used by these sources, how the energy forms are converted from one to other, will be discussed. During the next week, we will talk about fundamentals of solar and wind energy. So, these are different forms of energy which will be highlighted under this week. So, principles of hydro and biomass. For example, we will talk about fundamentals of solar and wind energy, what is the technology by which the solar and wind energy produce electricity, and we will also talk about biomass and hydropower, which are very important particularly for India, and how the energy is converted from one form to other. We will also talk about some innovative forms of conversion of energy, such as tidal energy, wave energy, and geothermal energy. Fuel cell is a very emerging topic, particularly for electric vehicles. So, fuel cell, how the fuel cell converts the chemical energy into electrical energy, that will be discussed, the mechanism of energy conversion, and also energy from the waste, for example, energy from the waste heat, energy from the biomass and other waste. We will discuss about those things. Thank you all for your kind attention. So, we are very eager to see you in this course, and in the coming weeks we will discover many new things and technologies. Thank you so much.